Get that wide angle view again.
What up, fam? Happy Sunday.
Are we in? Are we centered?
I don't know. Are you going to make us move all over the place?
Maybe.
What up, Instagram? It's about that time. But it's not called coffee chat anymore.
It's not coffee chat. What happened? What are we doing?
But we still have our coffee.
We do still have our coffee. All right, scoop this way a little bit.
Hey, Salty is on. What up, Drink Salty? Shout out to Drink Salty, y'all.
Is it Drink Salty or is it just Salty?
On Instagram, it's at Drink Salty.
At Drink Salty.
At Drink Salty Tea.
Salty tea. Salt tea.
Shout out to Salty because I just got a new care package in the mail with more prototype flavors to try, which I'm loving. And she liked it a lot. The last two I have really been obsessed with. And
ooh, babe, your calf.
I think it's June 17th that the new flavor is going live. The official new flavor that I got.
While we're on the cruise?
Yes.
Are they coming on the cruise?
I don't know. Are y'all going to be on the cruise? Drink Salty. Let me know if we get to see the Salty team on the cruise this year.
All right, I got to open up my notes and my YouTube to see.
And then we have to tell them.
So tell everybody what's up with this whole new keto rehab thing. Why did we go from just regular coffee talk with Coach Bronson and Coach Nat to being all official and stuff?
Welcome to Keto Rehab Podcast.
Oh no!
Except
are we all grown up?
Us on the podcast.
Well, we're a podcast that's on YouTube because I don't have the time or the interest in producing podcast content.
So only on Instagram and YouTube. Side note also, I'm keeping it real today. Bronson said, keep it real. Don't take my heating pad off. You can't see this apparently in the YouTube.
Oh, we want to say hi to Keto Simple.
It looks so blurry on YouTube. What's going on?
I don't know. Why does it look blurry? Does it look blurry to you guys? It looks blurry on mine. It doesn't look blurry there.
Yeah, it does. Something's wrong.
What? Hold on. Something's going on. Something's going on.
Something's wrong.
Is it just is it a dirty lens?
Yep.
It was a dirty lens.
I think that's what
let's
it was.
See if it,
no,
it's hold on. This hasn't caught up yet.
Oh.
Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. You're gonna see. They're pointing.
It didn't.
I'm gonna. I look like an old guy looking at my. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. Cleaning it off.
Oh.
Boom! Look at that. All right.
It was a dirty lens.
All right, Keto Simple.
Shout out
Thanks for joining.
Simple, Dustin.
And bringing all your folks with you. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
Bronson said keep it real, so I gotta tell y'all.
Yes.
Why I got the heating pad on. You can't see it on YouTube.
Because it's that kind.
It's about that time, ladies. And the struggle is real. So I was like, dang it, I gotta take this off. And he was like, it's real life.
It's real life.
Keep it on.
Be the authentic you that you are.
All right.
So why did we go to keto rehab? What's that all about?
What happened? I said that somehow, and you were like, oh.
Well, we were talking about what we do and where we fit and having some.
How we tend to be rehabilitation for people who have been on keto carnivore.
Oh, we were talking about was it the website? We were talking about your website and the direction and the content you wanted to put on your new social media because you got that whole new social media thing going. And you were talking about who you were going to be, like who's your target audience.
Oh, was that a conversation?
Yeah, it was follow-on because it was multiple times.
Right.
And then we were talking about like you're not talking necessarily to new people. We're talking to people that have been doing it mostly. And we do have new people that come in, but we were talking about.
You just reminded me. Yes. So it started because I was talking about creating content for newbies. Right. And you were like, but that hasn't been who you've served. And I was talking about how my audience is expanding and now I'm getting more questions from beginners or for beginners. And that was never, I just never did a lot of content about that because I have tended to work with, and you work with, people who, we probably need to put the AC on. We're both taking our socks off.
We're both taking our socks off. It's getting hot and everything. Hold on, let me do that.
It's already getting hot. He's doing a scarecrow walk.
It's only 5 minutes in.
Get up and walk.
5 minutes in and my armpits are sweating already. Whew.
That's hilarious. So we started talking about who we have served over the years, and it has been mainly folks who are not new to this lifestyle, but more have been doing it for a while and off and on, and need help optimizing, essentially. Fixing something and
figuring out
something.
Because we see people at conferences all the time that have been there. We've been to the same conference 4 years in a row, and it's the same people in the same place,
and they're struggling
with the same things.
What happened?
I have no idea.
We're still on. We just can't see ourselves in YouTube anymore.
No, it's just
it's
this.
Your screen.
My screen died.
Oh, well, I guess that doesn't have a lot of battery life, does it?
Well, I don't know. It should. Do I need to keep it charged all the time in between?
I don't know.
Hopefully I'm still live on here.
Yeah. It's just
now I don't know if I'm...
All right. What did you just do?
All right, we're going to turn it around because I can't see. So we're going to go that way now.
Okay, did it work?
Yeah, it'll work. It's working. It's just this.
Okay.
So in case you all want to know what happened, technical issue. This is the little reverse camera magnet thing that's supposed to let me see what's on the screen when I use the back camera. But apparently it just died, so.
Now we are up close and personal again.
Yes. Okay. We're back. And my coach is backwards now, but whatever.
Womp womp.
Okay, so.
This has been quite an intro.
This is, guys, whoo, boy.
We now have a nice professional logo and title, but we're not being very professional. So anyway, that's where the keto rehab came from, because I think I said, we're basically keto rehab for people. Right. And you were like, oh,
keto rehab, that's a great
name. That should be a thing.
Yeah.
So Coffee Chat is now Keto Rehab Podcast, where we help rehabilitate your ketogenic journey.
Yes, and
keto diet journey.
Because it encompasses all of the things that we talk about. Most of the time when you guys know, we're very mindset oriented, very thought process, perception, behavior change. And that's where most of the things that we see people who are stuck, that's where they're stuck on. It's not.
Yeah.
We ask questions, and we'll have some questions today. And we have some topics today that are things you guys need to know, but it's because you need to understand how to think about things. Right? So yes. The information that we share isn't just information so you know things. We're sharing information, and we're hoping that you learn how to apply that information to a context to help you understand what you need to do.
Yes.
Right. So gathering information doesn't help you if you don't know how to use it and if you don't do something with it. So that's what our purpose is. So we want to rehab your journey. Okay. So that being said, if you guys have any questions, let me look through here and see. Dustin said he has those prototype flavors. He said
so good.
Carnivore Jerry in the middle of a forest. Jerry, we've never met before, but that's a very interesting name. I like that. Okay, so let's see. Any questions? If you guys have any questions, please ask them. We will try to answer them. We have a couple topics we want to just get started with. Both of them, I think, are. Did you have something too on your list? Or just these two?
Just these two so far.
Okay. So both of the topics that we do want to talk about and bring up stem from questions that we see frequently, but they're also, I'm really hoping they help you guys focus on. And this first one in particular, everybody listening, I want you to take the things that we're going to talk about and tell everyone you know. Okay, and the reason being is the more I dig into this topic and the more I research the impact that it has on your health, the more I realize that what we're going to talk about is magnitudes better when it comes to determining your health outcomes than A1C. Okay, basically what we're going to talk about, if I had my way, I would go out into the world and completely remove A1C from the conversation and replace it with this instead.
Oh, he's so geeked about sharing this.
Okay, because the more I learn about it, the more impactful I learn about it. And now because we have CGMs, people can actually start looking at this stuff because it's something that's available.
Yes.
And that's why it's so impactful, because now we have the technology to actually see what this is.
And I've been getting more and more questions about CGMs since I did my little CGM.
This is the number one reason why people need CGMs.
Yep.
The absolute number one reason.
And this is the whole issue for the most part when it comes to blood sugar and the concerns about blood sugar. And this aligns perfectly with what I was taught in nutritional therapy training.
Right.
It was all about blood sugar regulation and dysregulation and the problems that come from the dysregulation. And that is the issue. It's not simply
high or low. It's not simply high or low. It's not I have a high blood sugar, so I have an issue. That's not the problem. Your high blood sugar isn't the problem as much as you think it is. And that's where this is going to be a boof, okay? So what we're talking about is something that's become known as glycemic variability. Okay, big words. And there's a specific measure that some apps in the CGMs now have them. Others, I don't know if they have them in all of the different apps, but you can take the information from your CGM and figure it out. I don't know if there's calculators yet online, but go in and figure out basically what the different, what the actual number is. But basically, there's a measure. It's called MAGE, like Fantasy Mage, MAGE, the mean amplitude of glycemic excursions.
Woo!
Okay.
What does that mean?
All that means is, what is the average difference between your baseline blood glucose and spikes and valleys? What is the average distance? It doesn't matter how often it happens. It doesn't matter anything else. Just what is the average distance? So if your blood sugar is at 95 on average and you're spiking to 150, or your low is going down to 70
or 50,
and you're constantly doing this back and forth, what is the average between those distances? And then you get a number. The lower that number is, the more steady, stable, regulated your blood sugar is. So,
and that is the goal.
That is the goal. When we talk about blood sugar regulation, we are not talking about the average, because you can have a 5.5 and your MAGE is a 7.0, which is not good. It should be lower. Okay? You want to have a MAGE, depending on who you talk to, anywhere from a 3 to a 5, depending on who you talk to.
And this is why you could have a 5.7 is kind of like the breaking. Is that the breaking
That's the
line?
5.6, depending on who you talk to. Yeah.
So if you have a 5.7 or 5.8 and you're freaking out about your A1C and your doctor's freaking out about your A1C, this would be the perfect candidate to get a CGM and start looking at it more closely.
And what is the average? Maybe you have a 5.7 A1C. That's awesome. But you're a flat line going across the screen all of the time. You have nothing to worry about. You're fine, especially in the context of, is your inflammation low? Do you have any oxidative stress? How's your bun creatinine? Like all of the other markers of stress and inflammation. And do you have high blood pressure? What are your triglycerides, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? When you look at all those things, and whew, that is warm. I thought that was your belly at first. I'm like, why is your belly so hot? Right? So when we look at glycemic variability, the goal has to be maintain as steady of a baseline as possible.
Yeah, so what we want and what you're likely going to have still, even with keto meals, is you're going to have a rise after a meal and then a decline. We want a rise and a decline, not a spike and a drop.
Right.
That's the goal.
This is one of the reasons, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I can't not do it. This is one of the reasons why the sugar diet is fucking people up, and they don't know it yet. Because I've seen posts, carnivore influencers talking about, this is me after 3 weeks on the sugar diet. Look at my blood sugar, right? They're not looking at the spike.
The variability.
They're not looking at the fact that their insulin is working overtime 8 times a day, right? And all of that's actually happening.
The first time I saw that, and they were like, now it's in the 70s. Right? Was, hypoglycemia.
Right.
Like you're
overproducing
creating
insulin.
hyper and hypoglycemia.
Yeah.
Spikes and drops.
So the studies are amazing at the percent of increase of risk, the more glycemic variability you have. So the higher ranges of those spikes and valleys that you have can actually be more harmful to your mortality rate, risk of mortality, than a high A1C. Okay, so the data shows this. The studies are out. Go look up glycemic variability and the impact on mortality. Go look up glycemic variability and metabolic syndrome. Go look all these things up, guys. If you have high swings, that is going to be more detrimental to your health than just having a high overall blood sugar level. It's the swings that cause the stress.
Yep.
Right? That should be a t-shirt. Okay? So something to think about, something to take a look at. If you've never heard that before.
Perfect example. She said, anxious to hear this. I'm strict keto since 2018, but my glucose is higher on average, and A1C went from 5.2 to 5.7. So Kelly, I would say you are the perfect candidate to look at a CGM.
Yep.
And for those of you who have blood glucose glucometers, you can look at those a little more frequently and be more strategic about when you're looking at them.
You've got 10 fingers, so at least 10 times a day. You can do your toes. You get 20 times a day.
Yeah, look at fasted compared to postprandial, and you can look at.
Does everybody know what postprandial means?
Postprandial means after a meal. So 30 minutes after a meal, 30 minutes to an hour after a meal is when you should start to see that how high it's getting. And then 2 and 3 hours after a meal, you can see, does it come back down to baseline? Does it drop below baseline?
Right.
You know what's happening there. But that's a lot of pricking. So I would just say, get a CGM. It's worth it.
Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful. And again, I really, 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 of all of the things I have going on right now, this is one of the things from a health perspective that I really want to get the message out about. I don't hear enough people talking about it. Honestly, I don't hear anybody talking about it. Everybody, influencers, doctors, all the scientists, everybody's still talking about A1C, even though we have this data, even though we know this stuff. And I hear doctors and some of the networks that I'm in where we have practitioners and clinicians and medical doctors talking about things and sharing information. We talk about it all there, but I'm not hearing any of that come out of that community into the public for people to hear about it. Maybe they're doing it in their clinics, but none of them are on social media. So for those of us on social media, if you have a channel, if you have a following, if you're talking to other people and sharing information, learn about glycemic variability and start talking about it. It is hugely impactful. I don't understand why CGM companies aren't using it as a selling point. This is some of the things that you guys need to be. Are they? I haven't seen it. Okay.
Well, you haven't really been paying attention to CGM companies.
Well,
I did a lot of that.
You did a lot of research. That's true. You were trying a bunch of different ones out.
Mm-hmm.
So
if anyone, side note, I should mention the ones that are available that you can get on your own outside of insurance. So for those of you who don't qualify for the what is it called?
Libra,
Freestyle. What's the other one?
I forget what all. There's There's too many.
It's the main company that basically supplies it also to these other CGM companies. I'm forgetting the name. But anyway, if you can't qualify for it through your insurance, there's a few big companies now that are out there competing against one another. So the prices are very similar to them all. There's the Stelo, Stelo, and
Which I've heard good things about.
that's the main one right now. That's the one I tried second. So Lingo was the first one I tried. That is only through Apple, so it's not available on Android. Stelo is available on both, and it now has a integration with Oura Ring. Okay. So Oura has been promoting it. So you'll be able to link that data or sync it up with your Oura if you're an Oura Ring user. And then Levels, that's the one that's Dr. Casey Means.
Gotcha.
Company, or she's one of the founders or investors of Levels. But I think Levels works with a particular CGM company. So it's not, I think they have their own you can purchase through them, but they also allow you to purchase your own separately and sync it up with Levels as well, because Levels is an app. So those are the three main ones that I'm aware of. Okay. And I don't really have a preference of one over the other, but you can try them out. They all pretty much have like a trial period that you can get a month or one sensor or a month's worth and give it a try, so you can test out the different
I think everybody
yourself.
should try a CGM at least once.
It's a really cool experience.
Try it for a month and just see. Get two of them, right? Because one lasts about 2 weeks. Get
And
two of them. Try it for a month, and it's going to totally give you a whole another level of insight into what's going on.
It really shows too bio-individuality. Some people handle certain foods better than others in terms of their blood sugar control. So, something could spike one person and not another. So it's really valuable information to have for yourself. Remember the one time when we went by your favorite ice cream shop and I had already had carbs with dinner that night. I forget where we went to dinner, but did I order the fries? That might have been the night I got the fries.
Was it Makers?
I think it was Ted's.
Ted's. Okay.
And so I was able to see, the change in my blood sugar, and it wasn't really rising after the fries. It usually takes about an hour for me. If I eat starchy carbs, it'll take at least an hour for me to see that increase.
She had a sample.
I had
a sample of ice cream.
Like one of those teeny little spoons. And there was like a half a teaspoon of ice cream.
Yeah.
And it just shot through the roof like immediately. It was crazy. I was like, wow, that was so telling. So it's really powerful information to have.
Yes. So definitely something we think everybody should look at. Everybody should share with other people the importance of glycemic variability in how you're understanding the impact of what's going on. Yeah.
Blood sugar, what's the word I'm looking for?
And it's a great example.
Patterns.
It's a great example. And this is one of the things that I'm finding myself in is we're at a really cool place now where technology and research is opening up doors for things that allow us to shift how we think about and look at all these different markers, right? A1C has been around for decades because that's the only thing we knew to check. We didn't have CGMs, right? So now that we have the ability to continuously look at this, it opens up another set of data.
Yep.
That, now we have data that's available that we can look at, and it gives us a different level of insight. So we've never had this before. So in my opinion, we now, I like I said at the beginning, I think this should take precedence and be the new standard for how we evaluate blood sugar control.
Absolutely.
And totally just screw A1C. Like A1C doesn't even matter anymore.
Yep.
Right? So that's where I'd love to see this go. But
interesting point I want to mention too, because this came up also with a client. Kelly says some proteins spike it for me, like hot dog, no bun. Is that a thing? Absolutely. Well, first of all, hot dogs, God only knows what they're putting in those things, right? They're going to say all beef, right? I don't know. These processed meats are a different ball game. So there could be something in there. But also,
you ever seen how they make hot dogs?
Oh my God.
I used to tear up hot dogs, but after I saw how they make them. I don't know if I had a hot
You know,
dog
it's
in. I don't
funny.
even know how
This
long.
just came up in my group too about Juliana said, "Am I ruined for hot dogs for the rest of my life?" She's like, she realized how high the fat is in a hot dog compared to the protein.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, "How will this ever fit into my lifestyle?" And I jokingly said, "It won't. It will never fit into a healthy lifestyle, in my opinion." But I said, well, that doesn't mean you can never have a hot dog again, but this is the kind of thing that when we say keto rehab, we're talking about how you think about things, right? Whereas once upon a time, you might have had 2 or 3 hot dogs at a barbecue and maybe sausages and burgers, and you're having all of that. And now you're focused, like my ladies are, on balancing your proteins with your fats, having more protein, prioritizing protein over prioritizing taste buds, like back in the day. But now you might go to a barbecue and say, okay, if I want to have a hot dog, I'm also going to have the grilled chicken or something leaner. I'm going to pair it with some lean protein,
Right.
grilled shrimp or something. Or maybe I'm only going to have half a hot dog, or I'm definitely going to limit it to one, or you cut up the hot dog and you have bites with your other foods. It's just thinking about the things that you're doing and the foods that you're choosing in your meals differently than you used to.
Yeah.
But along these lines too, somebody else was asking about her whey protein bowl or whatever it was that she was making in the morning as her breakfast. Oh, she was making muffins with whey protein. And it was a different question.
Protein muffins.
Yeah, she
Okay,
was making,
gotcha.
with whey protein and peanut butter and chocolate chips and whatever the other thing was that she put in there. Now, her question was more about digestion and how she was feeling after eating that she felt heavy. And I said, well, a lot of people have reactions to whey. Whey can cause gut reactions in people. It could be the fact that you were cooking the whey. Sure. Right? But also, because for her, one of her concerns and one of the main reasons why we're going keto for her is she's type 2 diet. She has the type 2 diabetes.
Diabetes.
Diagnosis. That I was comparing.
Diagnosis and diabetes. Okay. Gotcha.
Diabetes is your diagnosis.
Yeah, I can't even.
Anyways, so for her, I said, well, here's the other thing with whey. It's a very quick digesting protein. Now, if she's pairing it with all those things she was putting in there, it likely would slow down the glucose response. But also, if you're putting chocolate chips in there, like it could also be increasing the blood glucose response. So, especially a whey shake, if you're consuming a whey shake, you could get a spike from that.
So there's I want to be very clear. It is unlikely that if you're eating a whole food source of protein that you're going to get a spike. Glucose response.
You might get
you'll get an insulin response, but not necessarily a glucose response. If you're eating processed protein products, it is very likely that you will get a glucose response.
That.
Okay, so just understand that, because there's the natural versus the processed. There's also the fact that in most natural proteins it comes with fat. That's gonna tampen some of that as well. So just understand that it's not protein; it's the type of protein that's more important when it comes to that.
And whey is a lot quicker digesting than any real food protein source.
Yes. All right, we got a question. Dustin asked a question, which I don't know if I've ever heard this term. I heard a term for the first time today: insulin suppressant.
Oh,
Have you heard that? Thoughts on it? Risks? Is this as a product? Is this as a?
Yeah, I don't know. That I'm curious. What do you mean
Dustin,
by suppressant?
what are you referencing? In what context did you hear that in?
Because the first thought that came to my mind is what Dr. Sivas talks about: insulin suppression. But what do you mean by suppression?
Right, he's talking about insulin suppression, as in it's not actually suppression; it's just never being activated, because you're always eating low fat and low carb, right? So yeah, if you could, Dustin, give us a little bit more on that. I'd love to see what that's about. While we're waiting on that, let's talk about the next topic.
Okay.
And again, if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask them in my chat on YouTube, in her chat on Instagram, whatever it may be, and we will try to address whatever we can. Fitness, nutrition, mindset. Don't ask us about taxes because we can't help you there.
God, please don't.
Okay, so the second topic we have, and I don't remember where this came from.
I do. Shout out to Dana.
Oh, was it Dana? Was asking about brain stuff.
Was asking about exogenous ketones, which
wait,
got
he
us
just
on this
responded.
topic.
It's the opposite of insulin resistant. There you are eating low carb and your body isn't needing to make enough. I was told Kelly Hogan has a video coming out and was curious. Okay.
Oh, suppression.
So it's similar. It's the same type of thing that Dr. Cybus talks about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if suppression technically is the right word because it's not being suppressed in the context that Dr. Cybus talks about it. It's just not activated as much. And it's the same discussion that we have when we talk about the potential harmful effect or the potential contraindication of being in ketosis all the time, right? This is why we talk about, depending on who you talk to and depending on what data you look at.
Segue into the next topic.
Right. Depending on who you talk to and depending on how you look at it, you could say, and there are people that make a case. I've made a case. I know Bart K makes a case. There's other people that make the case that we really should be breaking ketosis on a regular basis because having chronically high levels of ketone, so in that respect, actually, it is suppression so I just take back what I just said, because having chronically high ketones does suppress insulin. So if you're always in ketosis and your insulin is never allowed to function, you now can create issues in your liver. You now can create other issues where the things insulin is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to help shuttle amino acids into the muscle. It's supposed to help manage hormones and do all these other different things, right? So insulin has a function, guys.
That's what so many people
It's not a bad
get
thing.
wrong with this lifestyle. Hello, keto rehab. Yes,
right.
We do not need to fear insulin. It's like fearing cortisol, right? It's like this whole, you should never have any cortisol. You should never have any insulin. No.
Right. No.
They're
there for a reason. They have absolutely essential functions in how your body works. And if we are always managing or maintaining an imbalance in how those hormones are supposed to work, we are just creating a problem on a different side.
Right. What we're trying to do is fix a dysfunction.
Right.
Not swing to the other extreme and think that, we never need these things.
And Dustin just said exactly the right thing. Okay. And I've said this before. He says, I thought this because if you're never in ketosis is bad. So you would think that the opposite works as well. If you're always in ketosis,
right.
That can't be good either.
That can't be good either, exactly.
Right? And it's the same thing I talk about with chronic ketosis from a fuel perspective. Just like I say, and I said this in my book, The Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness, if chronic high blood sugar is bad, then how is chronic high ketones good?
Yeah. Yeah.
If too much fuel is bad on one fuel, how can too much fuel be good with another fuel? Like the logic doesn't
Okay,
track.
I love this question.
Okay.
That makes sense. How often should people break ketosis?
No, there's no answer to that. Recommendations that I've seen, and like I said, Bart K, me and Bart have a really long conversation about this on my YouTube channel, and he says at least once a day. I think it's don't even worry about it and just eat what you're going to eat as long as you're staying within the guidelines that you're.
Have I mentioned how much I love this man?
It doesn't matter. You shouldn't even effing worry about it.
Sometimes we share the same brain because
don't even worry about it.
I was going to say within this question is kind of the thought process of I need to do something to break ketosis.
Well, and then that's where we're going with the next. Yeah.
The point is, and yes, this is exactly where we're going with the next topic. But being on a ketogenic diet, living a keto lifestyle, eating keto, whatever you want to call it, does not mean that you will always be in nutritional ketosis 24/7.
And there's no need to be.
It's almost impossible to even do that. And what you shouldn't be doing is striving to do that. So instead of having to break ketosis, doing something to break ketosis, if you don't worry about it, like Bronson just said, you will naturally break ketosis and go back in, and it's a process that just happens. The problem comes in when people are trying to never break ketosis.
Right.
And they are testing constantly, and they are concerned about everything that might break ketosis. You will stress yourself out more trying to never break ketosis than ever even having to worry about.
The fear, and Dustin said it, the fear of breaking ketosis and the attempts to always stay in ketosis is in many cases one of the reasons you're not making the progress you want to make. Because what do you have to do to stay in ketosis? You have to eat a crap ton of fat. Why am I not losing body fat? Well, maybe because you're eating so much fat because you're trying to stay in ketosis that your body can't use the fat that's on your body because it can never get rid of the fat that's in your stomach.
This is one of the things that we talk about, and it started to become mainstream when Maria Emmerich really leaned into the whole protein thing and teaching people not to fear protein, and that if you want to lose fat off your body, stop eating so much fat. And then it really took on, and others spoke a lot more about it. And this is a huge thing that we do with keto rehab with people who have been eating sticks of butter because they're being told to eat all the fat to keep your ketones high, and they're wondering why they're not getting results.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to mention this question because we will touch on this, Jenny, but we are going to get into the ketone discussion first.
Okay, what's the question we want to touch on?
The question was, and I have a question for you. So curious about Dr. Christopher Gardner's research on protein requirements.
I'm not familiar with him.
I'm not familiar with it either. So Jenny, if you'll do us a favor and drop kind of a general description of what that is, we'd be happy to share our thoughts.
I'm going to just ask, hold on.
Ask Gemini.
What are Christopher Gardner's recommendations for protein? Okay, we'll let that pull up.
We'll let that pull up and we'll talk about the ketones. So, what got the question about ketones on the table was Dana asking about, okay, if her main goal right now is fat loss. But if I'm experiencing brain fog and fatigue and all of these cognitive symptoms, would it benefit me to take exogenous ketones? She said she used to consume a lot of exogenous ketones until she learned from us that in a fat loss phase, it's not going to help you lose fat, and it can hinder fat loss if you're consuming exogenous ketones.
Right. So let's explain that, and then let's also tie that into this, because when we're talking about, let's talk about first a ketogenic diet.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to take a step back, and I want everyone to really understand what a ketogenic diet is. When we talk about a ketogenic diet, historically, where the term itself comes from is the medical implementation, I think it was the 1920s, of utilizing a ketogenic diet to mimic fasting and help improve the rate of seizures in epilepsy. Okay, reduce epileptic seizures. So understanding that carb restriction increases ketones in the blood, and that can help with seizure control. That's where ketogenic comes from. The problem is we've taken the name ketogenic diet and we've assumed, and we talk about it as if ketones are the goal of the diet. And I'm here to tell you guys, ketosis is not the goal of a ketogenic diet.
What?
A ketogenic diet is nothing more than the name of a nutrition habit that increases ketones. It's just a habit. It's just the name of the diet that helps your body increase ketones. That's it. It's not the goal. Because here's what happens. Check this out, guys. You can't make ketones. Your body, and technically your body doesn't make ketones. We'll talk about that in a second. Your body doesn't make ketones.
What?
You don't make ketones. I want to think about that. There's a very specific reason I'm wording it that way. You cannot increase the ketones in your blood. You cannot get into ketosis naturally unless you are fat adapted. Okay.
Bum,
The goal of your ketogenic journey is to become fat adapted. And then when you're fat adapted, you enter a ketogenic state. You become ketogenic when you become fat adapted. Okay. And here's why I say that the body doesn't make ketones. Ketones are a byproduct of fatty acid oxidation. So your body can pull the fat from your body or take something that you eat, breaks it apart, uses the fatty acids for fuel. Ketones are what's left over. It's what's left over. You got this bundle. You've got this whole wrapped up thing. And I'm going to use an analogy in a second that I
love that analogy
that I hope everybody gets this concept.
It helps it land, y'all.
Okay. It's got this bundle of fatty acids. It breaks it up. It makes it all do all the different things it's going to do. Some stuff goes here for cell function. Stuff goes here for hormones. Some stuff goes here for energy. Guess what's left over? Ketones. You didn't make it. Your body doesn't make it. It comes from being fat adapted. And here's the analogy, guys. There may be some guys on here that can relate to this, but I know we have mostly women that listen to us. So ladies, how many of you have gone to Joann Fabrics? You go look through all those shelves, and you get yourself a pattern. You go over to the other section, you buy a bunch of different fabrics. You go home, and then you sew yourself a dress, or you sew yourself a shirt or a pair of pants or shorts, whatever it may be. That is your body utilizing fat. That fabric that you bought, that bundle of fabric that's you sewing everything, is your body building and utilizing the material to the goal, what you wanted to do with it.
The fabric is the fat.
The fabric is the fat. Now, how many of you, after you're done doing that, have scraps left over? How many of you have ever used your scraps to make something else? That's the ketones. You didn't make those scraps. You were able to use those scraps.
Woo.
Okay? So that is the difference in what we're trying to talk about. The goal is not the scraps. The goal is the dress from the main piece of fabric.
You didn't buy the fabric to give yourself scraps.
Right? So that's the analogy.
You ended up with
the scraps that your body can use.
You used the fabric to make something, and then you had these scraps left over. And now that you have them left over, you're like, oh,
I can do this.
I can use these for something.
Right. I can use them for patches on my pants or whatever it may be. And here's the cool thing about this. This is another fascinating aspect of the human body. We know the benefit of a macronutrient based on the ability. What?
Evelyn's comment is gold. You got to use that. You can use that in your analogy too.
What did she say?
She said, I purchase faster than I utilize. So what happens? What happens when you consume more fat than your body can utilize?
Yeah. How many ladies who are into sewing have closets and all bunch of different fabrics?
Full of fabrics. That's what's happening on your body when you're
Stop shopping. Start making stuff.
All the extra fat.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. I like that. Great. Thanks a lot, Evelyn. Great connection.
Evelyn.
So what I'm saying is, this is a really cool thing about the human body, is that you're doing something beneficial to your body when the things that you're taking in are utilized appropriately, but then even the byproducts of that can be utilized beneficially, right? When we eat fat, it gives us glycerol, right? When we break down body fat, right? Fat provides glycerol that goes to gluconeogenesis to make glucose. Fat provides ketones that can help reduce inflammation and improve brain function, right? There's a bunch of things that come from being a fat adapted individual that allow the body to operate better across the board as opposed to carbs. Carbs, we know, create oxidative stress, gut issues, hormone imbalances, all these other things. So we know that there's a systemic benefit to the fat itself and the byproducts of fat metabolism to the human body. So that's how we know that fat is the goal of a ketogenic diet, not ketones. So that being said, and if we all can understand that, how do we transition into, ketones are beneficial? How can I utilize potentially this whole process of having ketones without stressing over it And then you had the question of, was she asking about exogenous ketones in her question?
For brain, yes.
For brain health. So then we can talk about exogenous ketones a little bit. So
yeah.
Going back to that, because ketones aren't the goal, this is why we're not worried about always being in ketosis.
And about what level of ketosis we're in.
Right.
We're not seeking deeper levels of ketosis, deeper, purple pea sticks and high levels on your
because ketone
your
production. This is another perception I want everyone to understand. Ketone production is nothing more. The only thing it is from a progress perspective is a signal to you that you're burning fat.
Okay, this is the part I wanted to do. Yes,
that's all it is.
Yes.
It's just a signal. Did my ketones go up? Yes, they did. Did they go up from a 0.2 to a 0.4? Boom. I know I'm burning fat. End of story. Do I need to be at a 0.3 in order to be ketogenic? No. What is the minimum effective dose? What is the measure, the change, the trend in what's happening with my ketones? So this is why it's a good reason, and you can talk about this if you want, where we often recommend, if you're just getting started, go ahead and track your ketones.
Yep.
We just want to see, is there a change? Are you capable of breaking down fatty acids and increasing your ketones in your blood? That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for a number. No. We're looking for a change. That's the difference. So there's no level that's optimal.
Right. And you don't need to do this forever. Once you know you're capable, that's all you need it for.
Yeah. Right. Like my ketones on average, when I checked earlier, was it earlier this year or late last year? I did it for what, a month, something like that. I think I went above a 3, like 3 times in like a week.
A 3 or a 0.3?
0.3, sorry. I went above a 0.3 like 3 times. Yeah. On average, I was like a 0.2 or a 0.3 for the most part. And guys, here's the thing. If I'm putting 85 octane gas in my car, do I need to test the exhaust to make sure that 85 octane is what's burning? Right? I don't need to do an emissions check on my car to make sure that I'm burning the fuel that I'm putting in. If it's all I'm putting in, the only reason you really need to be worried about your ketones to make sure you're burning fat is if you're not following the plan that you've set for yourself and you have to get back into fat burning because you just ate 3 pints of ice cream or had 6 beers at a barbecue. Right? That's the only time you really need to worry about it. Other than that, you're doing what you need to do. Your body can only work with what you're giving it. And it's not going to not get into ketosis because it's being stubborn.
You know what? I'm glad you used that example because where I see a lot of people stressing over their ketones is because you're trying to get away with things on your ketogenic diet lifestyle.
What?
You're trying to see, did I get away with it?
Nobody does that.
Did I get away with it this time, right? This circles back to the original conversation about CGMs. It's not about the ketones. So if you just had 6 beers or 2 pints of ice cream and you're trying to see if you can get back into ketosis, and if you did, you're like, yay, go me, I got away with it, you're missing the point. What did that do? What did that habit do to your blood glucose regulation? Did you get spikes and drops? Did you stress your body out? Did you create inflammation? Let's worry about the habits and how they're impacting our health overall. Then, did I get back into ketosis? Did that break my ketosis? To stop looking at the trees and look at the forest. What's the point, y'all? What is the point?
What is the point? Absolutely.
Okay. So that being said, let's talk about the exogenous ketones.
Exogenous ketones. Okay. Real quick though, Kelly asked about on average 0.4, always heard 0.5 and above is ketosis. What about ketones going down when you fast? Again, I'm going to go back to it. Who cares?
Right. What's the point?
What's the point? Why does it matter what number you're at when you fast? Right?
Well, why are you fasting is the first question.
Well, that's a whole nother.
If you're fasting to chase ketones, why?
Why? Always ask why. Why does it matter? Because the ketone level is less important than the fact that your body is utilizing fat and you're getting enough fat. We could go into the whole fasting and we don't want to. Yeah, that's another.
The first thing I would think of is, okay, you're not consuming anything. So if you're not consuming fat, why would you have?
Well, there's a lot of other questions.
Yeah, there's
body composition, activity, how much have you eten, how long are you fasting? Right. There's a whole bunch of.
I really want to get into the exogenous ketones.
Right. So the exogenous ketone piece, for particularly, so there's a couple things everyone needs to know. We verified yesterday because we were thinking a couple different ways.
Is it going to impact my fat loss?
Yes. And technically, ketones reduce or inhibit the breakdown of body fat. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that before. Okay. What it does is ketones can help with creating an environment that allows everything else to function better. So it's kind of a little bit of a trade-off. If you're focused, this is another area where there's that gray line of chasing ketones could be one of the reasons why you're not losing fat. Mm-hmm. Because the higher your level of ketosis, the more your body is saying, I don't want to burn fat. I've got all of this stuff here that's interrupting that process, right? So there are benefits for ketones in brain health. And this is where exogenous ketones can help when we talk about brain fog, anxiety, depression, sports performance, and things like that. When we talk about all of this, guys, remember, I just want to throw it back to context of you have to test this on yourself. You have to try something, see how it works over a period of time. Is this something that I'm doing? If you're currently stuck and you've been chasing ketosis, maybe just stop chasing ketosis and see what happens. Maybe the progress you've been stalled at automatically just starts changing and you go, oh crap, the ketones are what were holding me back. Maybe if you're having brain fog, you try some exogenous ketones and see if it helps. Balance that with, okay, I'm still on a fat loss journey, but I'm also feeling depressed, anxiety, or whatever, brain fog, and I take ketones. Does my brain fog and mental health improve? But then also, how does it affect my fat loss journey?
And this is the part
right.
I
So
wanted
it's the
to talk
balance.
about.
It's the balance you have to kind of look at and say, hey, how do these things work together? Where am I trying to go?
What I wanted to make sure to point out is that will it potentially reduce your body's ability to tap into its fat stores and utilize that for fuel so that you lose more body fat?
Right.
Yes. However, potentially, but also consider this, and this is why we always talk about the 360-degree view, right? If you're sedentary, laying on the couch because you're exhausted, tired, your brain is not functioning on all cylinders, you can't think clearly, so
you're just not motivated to do anything, whatever.
Yes, you're less motivated to do things, you're not as clear, yet now you're taking the ketones and you're getting up and you're moving and you're able to accomplish more in a day, and you're now not skipping your workouts and you're able to go, be more active, then it may actually benefit your
the big picture effect. And this is one of the things where if you get stuck looking at one of the mechanisms, you're going to get thrown off, guys. This is the problem. We talk about it all the time. Concepts and principles, looking at the big picture is always going to benefit you more than focusing on one thing, right? So is chasing ketosis beneficial? In most cases, not. Can ketosis help with brain function? Absolutely. Yes, it can.
Yeah.
So balancing, how do I maintain a ketone level that allows my brain to function the way it needs to, but also not inhibit my ability to change my body composition?
Yeah.
How do I do that? That's not just nutrition. There's lifestyle factors. There's how often are you exercising? What exercising are you doing? How much sleep are you getting, right? So looking at all of these things together is part of you have to put it all together, right? So just saying, well, I need ketones for brain health, and then slamming a bunch of ketones all the time, or eating a bunch of fat to get your ketones high, and then complaining that you're not making the progress you want to make.
Well, here's a quick,
right? You got to look at all the factors.
A quick practical tip you could try if the brain health is a concern while you're in fat loss phase. trade some of your fat grams in your day for exogenous ketones.
Yeah.
Now you're not consuming more fat in addition to the ketones.
Right.
But you're putting the ketones in so your brain can utilize them quickly. And you're adjusting your overall intake by pulling back a little bit on your
because
dietary fat.
ketones don't replace fat. Okay, here's another thing. We're just throwing all kinds of stuff out there today.
Because they act differently in the body.
Well, and they're used by different parts of the body.
Yes.
So
remember the scraps versus the dress.
The scraps versus the dress. Your body, and this is going to, your body in general does not use ketones for energy.
Oh, this is like a...
Okay. For the most part, the longer you are fat adapted, the more your body will prioritize ketones for brain function and less for muscle and organ function. Okay? So a fat adapted person, in general, I'll just round it to about 5 to 7% of your general energy demand comes from ketones. Most of it will be from fat. When you're first getting adapted, before your body is used to breaking down fat and using fat, then you're looking at 35 to 40% of your energy demands coming from ketones. This is where ketones at the beginning of adaptation can be beneficial because you're providing yourself energy. That's why exogenous ketones are a great tool to help with keto flu and that transition at the beginning because you'll have energy to use.
Yep.
Okay.
And you're not going to feel like
but you don't
from the
stay
keto
on
food,
it.
So you fail your keto diet and start eating carbs again.
Right.
Exactly.
The two biggest things when you're first adapting, exogenous ketones can help. Additional hydration with electrolytes can help. Those are the two biggest things. And then making sure you're eating enough in general. 3.
But just like testing your ketones, you don't want to, now you don't want the bridge to become a crutch.
Right. So then that's when you're first getting adapted. Once you're adapted, cut back on the ketones. You don't need them as much. Your body's producing what it needs. Okay. Yeah. Just like we say the body can produce all the glucose that it needs, your body will generate all the ketones that it needs based on the fat that you're eating and the fat that you're breaking down. You don't need more necessarily in general.
You know what? I also have to say this.
Uh-oh.
Because this is what I see so much. We love to say how long we've been keto, right? Everybody always loves to say, I've been keto for this long, I've been keto for that long. Can you hear me now, Evelyn? Just turned his mic back on. Maybe mine's not on. Oh, I don't think it is. That's why.
What happened?
When you turned your mic off, it must have turned mine off and they couldn't hear me. So I've got to say all that again.
Either that or you're coming from mine and not yours.
I don't know.
But they can hear you now?
Let us know. She said, got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's see. What did I just say? Oh, if you are cheating on your keto diet all the time, you can't stick to it for more than 3 days a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You probably never got fat adapted. and you are keeping yourself from getting fat adapted, and that is your issue long term.
Yep.
So mentally, I know it's easier said than done, right? Just stick to it for X number of days or weeks or months. But you're really doing yourself a disservice. Did it happen again?
I don't know. Nobody should be muted. Becky, can you hear us? Evelyn said that she can hear us now.
Don't know what happened.
Did we break it?
Maybe she was watching from before.
Oh, maybe. It says it's on. Hold on, let me turn it off. Yours is still on.
Yep. Mine was blinking before.
Mine is on.
I think we're good.
Okay, I think we're good.
All right, what were you saying? Or was I saying something? I don't know.
Okay. Evelyn said she can hear me. We can hear us. Okay.
Okay. About becoming fat adapted in the first place. And cheating.
Well, so we talked about glycemic variability earlier.
Yep.
It works the same for every system in your body, guys. Okay, so when you are on plan and off plan and on plan and off plan and on plan and off plan, there are systems, all of the mechanisms in your body have to adapt to whatever you're currently doing. And that adaptation isn't immediate, it takes time. So if you are constantly changing directions, right? Think about your metabolism, the way your body functions is like a train. And there's the thing you're doing is the first car, it's the engine. And then everything behind that train is all the things that have to get in place and adapt to the thing that the engine is doing. If you're constantly driving that thing down the track and then getting and turning around and coming back the other way, how long does it take for that tail of that train to catch up and go in the same direction? And then you turn around again, and now you're coming back the other way. And then you turn around again, and now you're coming back the other way. You never stay on track long enough for everything to get in line. And that's what a lot of people are doing.
Absolutely. All right, so I don't want to dive any more into that because that could be a rabbit hole.
Oh, it's
but we have had a few questions about protein.
Okay.
So I want to dive into that. And let me share with you before we start reading about the protocol or whatever. Yep. So we can make sure we answer these.
What are the questions?
The original question was about what we think of the protocol, right? So
yes.
We're gonna
and from what I'm reading right now, let me just.
Quick.
Okay.
This might be the segue into that.
Okay.
Because it relates to the ketones and protein intake.
Okay.
So, Fit and Fab Celeb says, my ketone was below 0.5 when my protein was way higher. When I figured out my protein threshold, I began to record higher ketone levels. And generally, my protein is still pretty much high, and I'm still losing body fat.
Yep.
She's 73 kgs and eating 173 grams of protein. That's a lot of protein.
That is a lot of protein.
So, just FYI on the whole, do you want to touch at all on the ketone production, protein threshold thing at all? Or is that like,
no, that's a whole nother, yeah. I mean, it's interesting that she dropped her protein, right?
Yes.
So
I can't imagine how much protein she was consuming before.
Right. Yeah, I can't. Wow, from 173, and that's a drop. Okay. Wow. And she's
73 kgs.
That's almost more than I eat sometimes. Okay. Not a lot though, because I do eat a lot of protein. Let's just talk about the protein question. So there were some comments I think on your thing.
Yep. So Jen Cheney was giving us a little description of what it was. He was saying research shows protein needs are significantly less protein than even 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. And I will say this, I haven't seen that specific, she was saying she saw it on Huberman. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that specific episode, but I have been seeing this make the rounds everywhere. So I think I don't know if some new study came out or something.
I have to go look at it.
Everybody's out there talking about it. All of the people that pop up on my YouTube, they're all doing a video about this new study that's showing we don't need as much protein as we thought we did. And then, of course, I don't know if Menno talked about it. It was like all the usual suspects talked about it.
So Menno had something.
But it hasn't changed their recommendations that they've always been saying.
And there's some reasons why. I've seen the Menno stuff a little bit, but that was more particular because that's what he focuses on in the target of hypertrophy and building muscle, right? So not just general lifestyle and general health.
Okay.
So this recommendation, 0.5, is below.
That's the recommendation?
That's what she just said.
No.
Wasn't it? What did she say?
She just said it's below 1.
Oh, it's below. Oh, I'm thinking of 0.5 from the ketone thing.
Okay, what is give us the actual gist of.
All I'm going to say is the summary that Gemini gave me on Christopher Gardner's core message regarding protein is to eat less red meat and more beans, peas, and lentils.
Oh, God. You'll be in a world of hurt.
That's all. That's the summary. Let me see what.
But what's the.
Does he recommend a amount of protein per day? Let's see what it says.
He references the RDA. Wait a minute.
So this must be new. This must be a new thing. So if this is just the general
more
stuff.
is not better. But I'm wondering what the research.
So if there's a new research, if there's new research
it's
out.
the twins documentary. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that thing?
What's that?
That's where they took 2 twins and fed them different diets to see what the outcomes were.
I mean, I've heard of that before. That's old, isn't it?
That's old, and it's a piece of crap. It's on.
But is that the same thing as Christopher Gardner? Or are we talking about different things?
I don't remember who was involved in that.
He references the nitrogen Berkeley study in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, also crap, because that can be artificially.
Oh, we don't have time rabbit holes.
So a couple things. Number one, we don't really have a lot of time.
Many times. Yeah.
And I have not looked into all of the references to be on top of this specific topic right now.
Okay, she said it's the same researcher.
Okay. What I will tell you is that the current RDAs are not
terrible.
Enough. Okay? Not enough. Right? If you look at the recommendation based on the current population and what we need to survive, I don't know if at almost 80% obesity and cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's being the top things that are killing people in the world today, particularly with the underlying root cause of mortality in hospital stays being sarcopenia, weakness is killing more people than disease, an inability to recover from operations, an inability to recover from injury because of lack of muscle mass. I highly doubt that even the current recommendations are enough. Okay?
It's not even about doubt. The current RDAs are based on the bare minimum for survival, meaning keeping you alive just before death. So the current RDAs for protein are not anywhere near optimal or high, like a maximum. It is not meant to be a maximum. It is actually meant to be a bare minimum. So anybody who's looking at the RDA thinking that you need to limit your protein to what the RDA says, that's flawed thinking, and that is not even the purpose of the RDA.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's all in the wording. It's all in the wording. Not a single person that's recommending protein based on any standards that currently exist is saying, here's the amount of protein that you need to be optimal. Every single one of them is saying, here's the minimum amount of protein you need, or here's the amount of protein you need, period. They're not qualifying it with the quality of life. They're not quantifying it with your ability to actually improve your physical function or metabolic function. They're not qualifying it with your ability to grow muscle, improve your strength and your physical fitness.
They're just like
qualifying. They're just literally just saying, here's all you need. Stop talking about it.
The question is, what is the goal?
What do you need in order to
What is the goal?
Live your best life. There isn't a study that will tell you that. There's not a single study that will tell you that. The only thing that we have when it comes to protein intake that's going to let us know how much do we need to live well is by how much we're seeing people in clinical evidence, right? Evidence-based science. What do we see with our eyeballs that people are doing and living well?
If you hear any researcher talk about protein, I want you to compare that researcher to Don Lemon.
Yeah.
The only person out there that I would say you should be listening to when it comes to research for protein. He is hands down.
He's the guy, the godfather of protein.
The authority, the godfather of protein research.
Yeah.
So if you want to listen to someone, go look up Don Lemon protein. Google that and you'll get everything you need to know.
Yeah. So as far as any of that stuff goes, and then as far as Gardner with the plant-based stuff, we don't even need to get into that conversation. Plant-based protein is not where it's at.
It's not a full complement quality protein source.
And it introduces a whole bunch of other problems.
Yep.
If you want bad gut health, focus on plant protein.
Just look up how much beans would you have to consume to get the same amount of protein you get in a quality.
Well, it's not even just the bean. We said we weren't going to talk about it, but
well, I just have to say, if you were replacing your red meat with beans, you would eat so many beans to get to the same level of quality protein that you would be sick.
Well, it's not even the same level because you have to increase it because it's also what's bioavailability.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many cups of beans you would have to consume per day? It would be highly uncomfortable.
Is there any other questions? So I know that wasn't a perfect answer. That wasn't the best answer to that, but
I think it was a great answer.
Okay.
I think it's what people needed to hear.
I don't have any other questions.
And Fit and Fab Celeb said she was eating 221 grams of protein before.
Good googly. You don't need that much. There isn't an upper limit, but that is going to make your body work extra hard on some things. And it's really could just be as simple as your body's chilling out a little bit because you're not giving it so much stuff to work. Because remember, protein is the most metabolically expensive macronutrient to process.
Your body has to
So if you're eating more than you need, you're giving it a lot of extra stuff to do. And that could throw things off as well. We don't talk about it. We always think about just the insulin response to food. There's other things that our body has to do,
so
right?
Much.
There's gut issue, there's gut interaction, there's all kinds of stuff. So
Yep.
All right. I don't have any questions. You have any other questions?
Nope. But Jen wanted to clarify. Just to be clear, I'm not advocating his perspective.
Yes, you are fine with 1 gram per pound of lean mass.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great place to be.
That's still my recommendation. 1 gram per pound of minimum, actually. Let me just make that clear.
That's a starting point. Figure out
1
where you're
gram
at.
per pound of lean body mass, in my opinion, is not enough for most women. And I'm saying women because I happen to know that Jen is a small female.
Especially for petite women.
So for petite ladies, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass is probably not going to be enough. Shoot for 1 gram per pound of goal body weight, ideal body weight, or current body weight. Unless you are severely obese, in which case that's probably more than you need.
Yeah, and I'll temper that with, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're at 60 grams of protein a day and your lean body mass is 100,
then that's an improvement.
So shoot for lean body mass. It doesn't, right? It's more about have something that you can start your goal with, work towards that, and then you're going to evaluate and see what it does for you anyways, and then you can change up or down from there.
My general advice is for anyone whose lean body mass is under 100 pounds, you need at least 100 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
So you need to get up above your lean body mass.
Yep. For sure. Okay, so we're over an hour again. These things are getting longer.
We just can't shut up, can we?
I know, right? So next week,
we'll be on the cruise.
We're going to do this on the cruise. Hopefully we have good internet connection. We can actually stay live and do it. And then we'll try to ping some folks. Is Sunday a seminar day or is it
I don't know.
We have to look at the schedule. we might not be able to do this, or if we do it, we'll be doing it
Might be a different time.
at a different time, or
We have to look at the
well, if it's during
itinerary.
seminars, if there's other people there, we can do it like Maria did the last
In the
time, and do it
hallway,
in the hallway and have people drop in.
Well, we'll just have to see what
We'll
day
figure it
that
out.
is.
We'll let you know if the schedule changes, but welcome and thank you for watching the first episode of Keto Rehab. We'll see you guys soon.